And we're about 3 minutes late. I do apologise for that. It's been a very busy day. I'm sure it's been busy for you as well, because, of course, today is the first day of the job retention scheme forms being out. And that's one of the things that I'm hoping many of you will come in with your experiences of today. Most people that I've spoken to already seem to say that it's gone relatively smoothly. Don't think any surprises, but I have again with me today Jacquie Mount, who has been looking at your questions now for the last, is it 4 weeks we've been doing this? I can't quite remember. Yeah, and hello Jacquie, hi, you're back. Hi. I think I've got an answer to one or two of those questions that have been on virtually every time we have. So I think if you want to kick off with those.
Yes, well, as you all know, the portal opened this morning, and apparently within the first hour, something like 67,000 businesses had gone online. I was on the end of the phone with one of our members who was trying the first one out quite early this morning, and it seemed to work fairly straightforwardly. I've also spoken to Claire Allen this morning, who obviously has quite a lot of clients involved, and she seemed to think it was going fairly it seemed to be going fine as well. Not quite as much detail to give as we thought there might be. We knew that you would have to give all your company information plus a list of all the employees that were being furloughed, but you don't have to give the information per employee. It's purely an amount of how much you're going to claim overall. And the latest update as to when you can apply, it says either shortly before or during the running of a current payroll. And HMRC did say you could apply 2 weeks in advance, and people applying today for furlough up to the end of April. And if you haven't run your April payroll, consensus seems to be that you can still submit and run your payroll as normal at the end of the month. So at the moment, it didn't crash. It's hanging in there as last we'd heard. So yeah, looking good and fairly straightforward, Gary, I think.
Yeah, great. I mean, we've heard no complaints at all. I've spoken to a couple that have already put 3 or 4 through this morning, and they were expecting a problem, so got up bright and early. And whether or not everybody has sort of left it, and therefore fewer people have hit it, I don't know. But no, it seems to be going well. And you've got some new information on nurseries, was it you were saying?
Yes, I had a couple of emails came in over the weekend, and I've spoken to one particular member again this morning about nurseries. We had a query a couple of weeks ago about nurseries who are still being paid their funding for certain children. And reading the detail that came out, you have to calculate the percentage of your total income, which is funded by local authorities, and that which is funded privately, so income from individuals. You can't claim back for the funded portion. You're expected to pay your staff that anyway. So you have to work out the percentage of your income. So if your income from private individuals is, say, 40% of your total, that's your salary that you then base the 80% furlough on and claim that amount back. The funding that's coming in from local authorities is there, it's given to you and must be paid to your staff as normal. So that's the only update I've got on an outstanding question we had from a week or so ago.
Okay, well, we've got a few questions starting to come in, or at least people, hopefully, not just questions, but with some experience of what's been going on this morning. Let's see how they're doing. Nicola Payne. Hi, Nicola. Has anyone submitted a claim that has a weekly and monthly payroll for the same employer? If the dates don't line up, how best to do this?
Well, you have to give the first and the last date that you're claiming for. So if you have a weekly paid, which is going to come into the next period you're claiming for, just claim for it in the next period. And as we've said, it will tally up at the end of the day. Now, talking to someone this morning, we've still got this situation of what happens if you're claiming for weekly paid employees that are more than, say, £2,500 in a month, because maybe it's a 5-week month. So I think we're still not 100% certain how that's going to work. There is some information out on calculations on that now that I think has come from one of the software companies, but we're still not sure what happens. But if you go from the date, so your first date would be, say, the 1st of March, or the first day you furlough a member of staff, up to either the end of March or the end of April, if that's when you're claiming from, make sure that what you're claiming is for particular weeks or particular months, and then put the next one into the next claim period. You can't claim more than once for one period. You have to make sure you've got all your staff in the first claim up, because you can't go back and claim retrospectively, it appears.
And Susanna has just said, hi, I'm still a little unclear as to how often we claim via the furlough portal. I have a client with weekly payroll who furloughed a few members of staff 2 weeks ago. Do I have to wait until they've been furloughed for 3 weeks before putting in a claim?
You have to wait
in 3 weeks.
Yeah, you have to wait 3 weeks, but then you can claim for as long as you like, because the claims that have been going in today have covered from the 1st of March up to, say, the 27th or 28th of April. But it has to be the minimum of 3 weeks. Right,
and we have a very positive note here from Peter Moriarty. Hiya, Peter. I still think that name's one of the best surnames we've got on the whole. That's a great name. I've submitted 6 job retention claims this morning with no issues at all. So excellent.
Very impressed with HMRC. Then shows you what they can do when they're under pressure.
Yeah. Barry Peak maximum claim per week is 576.92 as per HMRC guidance.
That's the weekly. That's the weekly amount based on the £2,500. We did some calculations on that this morning. So yes, thank you.
And Barry has very kindly then put in the word claim because he misspelt it in the first. Barry, if you hadn't mentioned it, I wouldn't have done. So noticed it. Nothing for the future. Those of us who occasionally slip up with our emails and get a little bit of pre-done text for us and have caused a few problems, then we're used to that sort of thing. But thank you very much for that.
Yeah, there is a calculator which I know Sian was using this morning. I had a long conversation with her this morning. She's using the calculator this morning to work it out. I think that's a very similar thing to what Julie was talking about, the Sage are putting together their tool from last week.
Yeah, and I think we've got to remember that a lot of people aren't bookkeepers, so adding 2 and 2 doesn't always come easily. So it's good that they've got that there. Let's hope they just press the right number of zeros. An unusual furlough question. A director wants to furlough themselves, but they do not want 80% of the full amount. Can they claim 80% of 300 rather than 80% of their regular monthly salary of 719? It's unusual.
I don't see why not. I mean, you can claim less. You can't claim more. You can't claim more than that. So they might come back at some stage and say, "Why aren't you claiming the full amount?"
Their husband is earning a good salary, and our client does not want to make more from the government than she needs. Well, I think that's a laudable attitude. I have to say that in a recent PQ magazine, I noticed that most of the chartered bodies have furloughed their staff. And I'm thinking, well, all the money that they've got sitting in the bank, I'm not quite sure why they've done that. And a couple of the other bodies, but I won't mention any of them by name, but ICB, touch wood, we're not furloughing at the moment. Everybody is at home working their socks off as they always do. It's just that we're not sitting in the same office. So we're going to try and continue to do that. So anyway, thank you for that. How do we claim every 3 weeks or weekly from now on? It's in 3 months, 3 week batches. Yes?
You can. I think you can claim weekly. Once you put your first claim in, which must cover 3 weeks,
right,
then you can claim weekly, we think, because you've just got to give the dates and they can't overlap. But of course, if somebody comes off of furlough, you then can't claim back until they've been on furlough for 3 weeks. So.
Right, yeah, so you can't, yeah, all right, that's good.
That's the under-16s, I still haven't had an answer to that one. I need to contact my contact at HMRC for the under-16s, so I haven't had an answer back to the one I sent them last week yet. Sorry.
But that's, yeah, we're still glaring clarification on that, Heather. It doesn't, yeah, it's just got a blank on the form. What happens if you don't put anything in? I wonder. And if it sort of just says you cannot continue until you've filled in this box, or does it come up with an alternative? I don't know, really.
I'm a bit concerned about putting a false number in, because at some stage it's going to go round and round in a little circle trying to match it at some stage along the line, I would think. But
they will, yeah. No, I just wondered if you didn't fill it in, whether it would ask you to put a reason and then let it go. But we can't really tell until we've tried that one. Whoa. How does the 3 week claim work when I have a client that has furloughed employees at different times as the work has run out? Therefore, his first claim will include one employee with only 10 days furlough, but another on 3 or more weeks in the pay period. So can you only claim for the 3, you think? And the other one will have to move into the next one?
I think you might have to do the other one in a later period. I don't know. This is where the nitty gritty is going to start coming out now.
I have a mixture of 2 and 3 weeks to claim. So do I wait till next week to claim for the 2 weeks and claim it all together?
You can't.
Yeah. You could do.
Claiming
you
for 2 weeks.
Get the money as quickly, of course.
Because by next week, you'll be claiming 3 weeks anyway. So you can't claim for 2 weeks. You have to claim for a minimum of 3 weeks.
Yeah, I think what Usher is asking is, should he actually hold them all together and wait until they've all done a minimum of 3 weeks? Well, I mean, that's a decision for your cash flow, isn't it, really, I think?
The bit that concerns me about that, Usher, is do I wait till next week to claim for the 2 weeks and claim it all together? No, I think you have to wait for 3 weeks and then claim once they've completed 3 weeks.
Mainly monthly. Sorry, we're busy reading the questions and trying to answer at the same time. They just come up on the screen in front of you, for those of you who aren't aware what it is we're sort of staring at here. But can you answer Jill on that one?
Yeah, let me look at it. Yeah, slightly confusing on claiming for weekly payroll where they were furloughed during the week and the employees topped up the pay to the full amount. Well, I think the thing is you run your payroll as normal and you claim from date A to date B. So providing that you're not absolutely up to the level on weekly pay, there shouldn't be an issue, because if you're running your payroll with a mixture of paid and furloughed pay, then you just claim the furloughed pay when you do your next claim for the dates. You don't have to give individual amounts. It's only a total amount for the whole claim that you're putting in. I think we thought at first you would have to put individual claims in and total it, but you're just asked to put, you have to put the total amount of furlough pay you're claiming, the total amount of employers NIC, and the total amount of pension. And those are the only 3 amounts that they need. They need a start and a finish date, and they need the employee details that you're claiming for. And that's all that they're asking for. So,
Suzanne Williams, great. I've submitted a claim this morning with no problems. However, how do you calculate someone on variable amounts of pay? The HMRC calculator doesn't work for this.
No, it does say on the details that if you can't make the calculator do what it wants to, you do have to do your own calculations. So we go back now to if they've been employed for more than 12 months, it's the higher of the relevant month or week from last year, or the average over the 12 months, whichever is the higher, and you claim that for each time you claim. And
Judith Siddle has confirmed it will not let you continue without NI. So we will find out how to do that.
I'll get on to that today to HMRC.
How about the one there from Anonymous again about the NMW?
I think it's the old rate, because you can't base your furlough amounts on the current year. So it's got to be the 1920 minimum wage. That won't go up until they return to work because they're not actually working. However, if they're on training, you do have to pay them the requisite amount as it is of today. So that will have gone up, but not for the furlough claim. It's based on 1920 figures.
I think the next one there, the bookkeeper, about directors' overdrawn loan accounts. That's a loan from the company that hasn't been paid. You can't take that into account, can you?
Well, it's run through payroll. The fact that it's been posted to, what they're saying is you do have to declare, sorry, that's the other thing you have to declare, that you are paying the full amount to the employee that you're getting from HMRC. So you are making a declaration that you are, we were looking at, can you claim the 80% and pay the staff less? No, you can't. You have to pay what they're sending you back. That's the declaration you have to make. I don't actually think that they will get to the stage of asking for your bank statements at this stage. And I think as long as you claim it back and then it's paid, I can't see a problem with it, to be honest. Of course, you've got...
No, because actually, if it is as if you take the money out and then just put it back in as a loan to the company. So
I mean, the director's loan account will be owed to the director rather than the other way around. So even the director's loan account rules probably won't come into that.
Okay. Yes, this is something you mentioned before, Jackie, this morning when we were having a chat. Can you put in the claim for the April pay, which is due to be paid 28th, presumably?
Yeah, we think so. It's a suck it and see. I think with everybody's been putting it in this morning. I think for this first month, they're going to accept that that this is going to be what it's going to be, and you can claim for March and April in one go, as long as you actually run your payroll. It does say fairly shortly, and I would hope that a week will count, and I don't think they're going to be chasing up on it at the moment. I don't think they're going to say you can't claim for April because you haven't done an RTI yet.
And I think Susanna's query here about the 3 weeks and then back on to work, then off for 3 weeks. You have to have a minimum 3 weeks for an individual, don't you?
I mean, in that situation, what you need to do is you need to claim monthly. So you put them on, you follow them, and then you take them off and you claim. Then you follow them for 3 weeks, put them back on work, and then claim again at the end of. If you claim at the end of each month, then that will cover that, if you can afford to do it that way. But you can't claim weekly if they're doing 3 weeks off and a week on. You've got to do it at least monthly, I think. Keep it as simple as possible if you can afford to.
Yeah. Deborah Hinson's got a query here. We do get this occasionally, that clients forget to tell them that the new employee has been taken on.
Oh, yeah.
So they started on the 17th of February, but the February and March RTI report had already been run. Amended the March RTI, not prepared to amend February's, obviously. He's now had a claim rejected and is not happy. Is it worth finding out?
Yeah, the rule is you have to have put an RTI in by the 19th of March. So if you haven't got
HMRC, whether you get through at the moment.
Yeah.
Question.
They are asking you not to ring them unless it's absolutely necessary. But the rules are they have to have had an RTI submitted by the 19th of March, otherwise they won't get it back.
Net pay schemes on pensions. Richard James there.
Sorry, I'm just looking at one about SSP. The SSP claims, we're not sure how that's going to work yet, because I don't think that portal is open yet. I think that's probably going to be the next one to come on, the SSP reclaims. Richard, I can only see pension relief at source schemes.
Right.
I think you can, with the net pay scheme, I think you can claim I'm going to duck this one, you can claim the minimum that you're entitled to. So on a net pay, it will be the 3% that, I think it's over the lower earning threshold. I need to look into net pay. Net pay rate.
I have to say our members have been pretty brilliant. Most of the experts that we've had on here, yourself included, Jackie, they seem to be trying to find the most difficult possible question to ask, which is
our
great.
members are amazing. You are doing such complicated work. It's unbelievable.
Yeah.
I'm very impressed.
Yeah, we all are, actually. It's surprising how people are doing.
Really, it's really testing the grey cells. They're in there somewhere.
Yeah. It's interesting that it was said some time ago that bookkeepers only ever look after small self-employed businesses. The number of queries we've got on furlough really points to the fact that this isn't the case. You know, it's great.
What happens if you're making one claim for staff that have all done 3 weeks furlough, but the start dates are staggered? That doesn't matter, because you're not asked to give the start and end date for each individual. It's the start and end date of the claim, and within that period, you have to have your 3 weeks of furlough. So even if the dates are staggered, as long as there is 3 weeks for everybody within that start and end date, that's fine as far as I can see.
Query from Pauline: when calculating furlough pay for variable paid employees using average over 12 months or however long they've been working, do you include any holiday pay? I think we got the okay to
I think you've got to include holiday pay, because that's a week. It would be a week at work otherwise, and that's what they've
and it's statutory right now, isn't it, to holiday pay anyway? So
yeah,
it's the 12-month period for averaging always year end. They can pick and choose a little bit on this, can't they, Jackie?
I think it's the year end up to the 28th of February, because the March, which is the first month, will start from March of last year and go to February of this year. So you use at the moment, I think I don't think it's a rolling 12 months. I think it's this month equivalent to last year. So it's March to March, April to April, or the average of the 12 months from March to April 2020. Does that answer, Maggie? Hopefully.
Yeah. If you pay normal pay through the furlough pay in the same period, you have to proportion NI and pension contribution from Julia.
And you do it now. This is, again, this changes something that I said last week, because we were looking at the daily rates. And when we do the ICB payroll exams, we average over 260 days, so 52 weeks times 5 days. What the HMRC sample calculations are doing is actually looking at March and taking it as 31 days. So each month is going to be different when you're pro-ratering. So yes, you do have to pro-rata, but you'll need to check how you pro-rata it. And it's to do with the number of working days against the number of furlough days in March.
Okay, that was Julia Williams anyway. So hello, Julia. And we only process the payroll and submit RTR on behalf of the clients. Can we as agents make that claim for the clients?
Yes, as long as you have your own agent logging on number for that client, you should be able to claim under your own agent login.
Dilip, good to see from you again. Jane Warren, you can claim up to 14 days beyond the date of the claim, i.e. claim today for up to the 3rd of May. So that answers the monthly pay. Yeah,
we did say it was up to 2 weeks in advance, but they're now saying shortly before. The claim can be made shortly before the RTI is submitted. So we're hoping that shortly still covers 14 days, yeah.
That's what they call a government specific, isn't it?
Yeah.
Shortly.
Yeah. Thanks, Jay. No, I think that's right.
Catherine says, claiming employer pension. The company is using auto-enrollment set 1, where the employer minimum is 4%. Can this be claimed, or is it restricted to 3?
3%. It's the minimum, so it's only 3%.
Darren Salter says, HMRC told my client this morning that the date on the RTI did not matter as long as they were employed
throughout. I think, yeah, no, that's good. That's backing up what we're hoping.
And Suzanne Proctor, hi Suzanne, says, if you have dealt with March payroll and the RTI and P60s have been issued, are you able to claim back in the first claim, the 1st March to 30th of April?
Yes, I think so. Yeah, because we've got people doing claims from the 1st of March to the 30th of April. Because March is going to be a nightmare for them to reconcile, because it's everybody's got part claims for this and part working and part furloughed. So yes, and if you've run the year end, because you also needed to move on from the year end before you can run your April payroll, which I know on certainly the software we were looking at this morning. Yeah, the P6s have been finalised because the year end has been done.
Have you got the one there from Darren Salter?
HMRC told my client this morning that the date on the RTI did not matter as long as they were employed prior to the 19th of March. I told my client this was not what the guidance said, but she said the man at HMRC was insisting that he was right, told her to take his name and log the call, as I think the claim will get refused. I have to say, a lot of the HMRC staff have been dragged in to help out. So, you know, I think you're right. I think if the claim's refused, you have to log that details and then go back to them, because they were absolutely insistent that an RTI had to have been submitted before they would allow a claim. It'd be interesting if someone's had a claim that's been refused. It'd be interesting to know if that's happened instantly or whether they're going to come back at a later stage. So if anybody has had a claim refused for whatever reason, that would be interesting to know how quickly they're rejecting them.
Yeah, of course, they can take up to 6 days, can't they, they're saying, on average?
They're saying it should be in your bank within 6 days, yes.
That'll be interesting.
Bookkeeping teams come back. That's Darren, isn't it? Hi, Darren. No, yeah. Kevin. Is it Kevin, bookkeeping team? I know we were emailing over the weekend.
So while you're just reading that, I don't know how many of you were watching University Challenge this week last week on Monday, and will have noticed the panel. Now, Sophie's got the photograph here. We've got just a photograph to pull up for you to see. And that was the panel. This is Imperial College, London. And those of you, the eagle-eyed among you, will notice a Mr. Brooks on the far left-hand side. We show the big picture, please. Now, those of you who have met our Mr. Chris Brooks will be looking at this young lad and thinks that is definitely Chris with a few years off him, and indeed it is. I watched a couple of these episodes and kept thinking, that definitely looks like Chris Brooks. So I rang Chris this week and he said, sure enough, that is his son, Richard Brooks. Now, those of you who don't know Chris is a companion and a fellow of ICB. He's an avid branch attender at both North Yorkshire and Tyne and Wear. He's also one of our technical advisors on the money laundering side. So if you've ever been put through to get a question answered, it's probably gone through to Chris. And Imperial College have actually done rather well. They won last week. They have won now all 5 of their matches. They had a cumulative score, I think, of around 1,200 before this started. And their opponents last week had got about 800 in there, so they were by far the best. And actually tonight at 8:30, they play Corpus Christi Cambridge in the final. So this would be great. I mean, they are a fantastic team. And the man you can't see next to him now, who is a bit of a character. But Chris has been rattling in the questions there and giving great answers. So that's absolutely fantastic. So well done, Chris. And obviously, we're all rooting for Richard. I'll remind you of that before we finish. I hope you all join in tonight, 8:30, BBC 2. Look for the one that looks the spitting image of his dad. All right, anyway. Sorry, Jackie. Carry on.
I was thinking the same. The first time I saw him, I thought,
yeah, definitely, isn't
he? Such a chip of the old block.
Yeah. Couldn't get lost in a crowd, could he really? No. That's brilliant.
I think, bookkeeping team, I think that particular question is again about the director's loan account. I think for a director, that's a fairly standard process of putting the pay through and putting it in there. So I don't think they're going to reconcile it back to the accounts. You've got an RTI submission and you're doing a claim for 80% of it. And I can't see that there's a problem with. At some stage, you might have to prove that the money's been paid back, but it's all been accounted for. So, and if it's used to offset the director's loan account, I can't at the moment see that there's a problem with that.
So which one is that you just answered, Jackie?
That's the bookkeeping team with the director's one. Tim, is employers NI's less employers allowance? Yes, if you're claiming the employer's allowance, then you won't be claiming anything back anyway. So I think we were talking last week about whether the £4,000 employment allowance can be hung over until this whole thing's over. No, it's not, because you will be paying it and getting it back, and it's part of your £4,000. What I still don't know an answer to is whether the whether this grant is part of the de minimis aid. I'm still trying to get a definite answer on that one. It's on my list still to chase up. The ones who were asking about de minimis aid will know, and I have done some emails on that one.
If a garage opens Sunday mornings and the mechanics work these Saturday mornings, and the mechanics work these Saturday mornings, in turn, is the overtime class as non-discretionary overtime? If it's constant rota, I would have thought.
I think if it's constant, then it should be okay because it's part of their normal pay. Anything that is contractual is definitely paid, including commission. I've seen that on the HMRC website today. I think if it's part of their normal wage, then we're looking at this variable wage over the past 12 months.
Yeah. I mean, as we've said many times before, the intention is to try and give people 80% of what they were normally expected to take home, which is obviously a 20% drop, but under the circumstances, you know, I think it's pretty good going, and thankfully this is available to us. But Does the 2 week ahead cycle also include weekly pay or just monthly pay? Do you know that one, Jackie?
I don't know, but if you're paying them weekly, I think for the first claim, I would claim for the 2 weeks ahead up to the end of April to give you that cash flow coming through to pay the last 2 weeks of April. And then after that, it depends on whether you're going to claim weekly or monthly of the grant scheme.
Right. Hi, this is from Sue. You said to include holiday pay in average furlong calculations. However, ICB legal team told me to use working hours only for 0 hours contracts. Can you clarify? This is one that's changed a bit over the last 4 weeks.
Yeah,
but
I thought we were using, because your holiday pay is based on your working hours, which is you take holiday rather than work. So I would include it. Although you're going back over the last you're averaging over the last 52 working weeks. So if you can go back over the working weeks, maybe I don't think it's actually going to make that much difference, because by the time you average it out, the holiday is an average of the last 52 weeks anyway, so it's not going to make that much difference, I don't think.
No, because I mean, if they're getting average pay on their holiday, they're not going to get more than when they're not working, are they? So they can't possibly.
No.
No. But anyway, join the late. What dates are required for the start and end date on the CJRS claim? I have a client who pays a week in hand, staff furloughed on the 25th of March, but not paid until the 3rd of April. Is the date rate the range paid rather than date worked?
You would claim from the 25th of March until whatever date you're going to claim up to. Pick a convenient payroll date and claim up to that date.
Yeah. Nice one here from Faye. Cooking on gas here. Claims going through fine. I seem to remember somebody you knew, Jackie, used to say cooking on gas. That's our colleague Leslie Ellis, who has right since day one, now enjoying the sun in his 80s, but still coming into the office regularly. Not now, of course, but
no, I'm getting very cross because he's isolating at home and he's not supposed to go out. Trying to keep him indoors is a nightmare, I tell you.
Well, if these 99-year-olds can do it, why can't they?
I know. You know, he potters around the garden, but he's not raising money for the NHS doing it. But anyway.
I've copied name and NI from Excel spreadsheet to portal, no problem. Only totals shown on portal, no calculations done at the portal, and you need the furloughed amount before you go on. Sounds pretty simple.
Yeah, you do need to have done your calculations, because also, if you don't complete the claim in one go, you've got to start again. You can't save it. Oh, here's one from Claire. Using QuickBooks. We hit this morning. Anyone using QuickBooks PaySuite needs to migrate to QuickBooks Standard or Advanced Payroll before they can run payroll in the new year. QuickBooks earliest migration is currently mid-May, so you may need to beg your QB account manager for help to rush migration through if you're still on PaySuite and need to run the April payroll. We hit a problem with this morning, because remember that I was going through this with you. If you're on QuickBooks Standard, apparently you can't pass forward because they've got a bug in it and they're trying to fix it. We rang, the member rang QuickBooks this morning and was asked, are you on QuickBooks Standard or Advanced? And when she said Standard, the lady on the other end said, we've got a problem with that. You can't run it. We're trying to fix it. So watch out, anyone on QuickBooks Standard. So yeah, thanks for that, Claire.
Actually, QuickBooks are doing a webinar for us in the morning. It's at 11 o'clock, and that's going to be about payroll. I know, because they're coming about it. So that would be interesting. So I know there's about 350 people booked in for that one already.
Well, that might be one of the questions to ask, because certainly the member is trying to pass it forward and keeps getting error messages, and has run QuickBooks and they've said they're trying to fix a bug in the standard version of it.
It's good actually, because I think a few years back when QuickBooks were trying very hard to get into the bookkeeper market, and those of you who came to our summits when we were at the QE2 Centre will remember they had some very, very good stands there. and they were pretty low in the market, but they're certainly getting a lot of traction nowadays. It's building up, hopefully, because of you all finding out about them when you came to the QE2, and they're now quite a big player. So they're trying much harder, and they're doing some work with ICB at the moment. So that'll be interesting to see how that all goes. Can we put in a claim for the month of April before processing the payroll?
Yes, you can, but shortly before. But we don't know how short shortly is.
Yeah, that's so they can hedge their bet at a later date. Can you enable the employment allowance later in the tax year and therefore claim the employer's NI now?
Don't think so. I think it starts from April. Sorry.
Minimum wage
is no, the national wage is the old national wage, not the new one. Oh, it's one from Pam about.
Oh right, okay, yeah.
It was good. I watched it avidly all the time.
Yeah, I know. It was a really good match, and the guy that sits next to Chris's son is one of those people that you just can't take your eyes off, because he sort of knows everything. I know Chris's son definitely hit the buzzer a couple of times, but he's one of those guys that, to begin with, you think, I'm not going to be able to sit and watch him all night, but after a while he calms down and he's great. But I think they've got a really good chance tonight. It'd be fantastic to see the son of an
I do hope they win. Not that I'm biased at all, but yeah, I'm rooting for Imperial. But interestingly enough, there was an article in the paper the other day about the Corpus Christi team, and their captain is quite a live wire as well. So to watch these two together, I think it's going to be quite intriguing tonight. So yeah. Someone commented on my earrings on Facebook.
Oh yeah, so you're good. Oh, right, okay.
I was bored on Saturday afternoon. I couldn't get in the garden. It was too cold and wet, so I decided to make a pair of earrings.
Richard James, surely we can claim back NI up to the 5th of April. Employer NI.
Yes, you can claim employers NI. You can claim all of the furlough for last year. Yeah, all your NI from the date of furlough.
Just nipping back to our non-ICB thing, really, Pam was just saying, I'm proud to say that my dad worked for Imperial College, model making engineer. So Chris's son Richard is actually in the mechanical engineering thing, so might be walking the same corridors of power. How about that? So £95 for the first week worked only.
There's one here from Pauline who's saying about, can they claim March's furlough pay to April's claim? Yes, you can, because basically what we're doing as of today is you're basically claiming everything for March and everything for April in one lump sum. As long as you've got your calculations for everything you're claiming detailed, I mean, one of the ways to do it will be to set up a spreadsheet with all your employees in each week and put your employees in exactly what they've earned furloughed and what you're claiming back. Then that's the evidence that you need.
Yeah. When processing payroll, do we process in what they should be paying, or just the 80%?
Just the 80%.
Just the 80%.
Yeah, you can only process what you're paying, unless you're going to top them up. If you're paying them 100% and you're topping it up, then that's what you put through payroll, but you only claim the 80% back. But if you're not topping up, don't put the full payroll through, because you're not paying them.
Barry Peak. Hello, Barry. I think the guidance that came out on Friday said the year-to-date earnings from the 6th of April 2019 up until date they were furloughed to work out average earnings on a year-to-date basis. Fair enough.
They're taking it for the whole of the last year. I think that's moved on because they've moved on from the 28th of February to the 19th of March, so it would make sense.
Right. Whoa, difficult one. Steph Busby. Busby Books. Hi, Steph. How you doing? Yeah. Have you got that one, Jackie?
Yeah, I've got it here. Right, this is an interesting one, because this is where somebody, a contract ended on the 17th of March. Employee started with another employer but was let go due to COVID. She's insisting she can be put back to my client's payroll and then be furloughed. There will not be a job there for her when this is all over. Yes, you can go back on, but the employer has to, the old employer has to agree to it. I read somewhere.
Yeah, I don't think you can force them to do it, can you?
No, I don't think you can. I think they've got to agree to take you back on. And officially, yes, you can for those that have left.
Right, Lisa Phipps might know what the phrase means. The maximum you can submit is 14 days before the claim period end date. Longer than that gives an error message. So she's obviously got the error message. This
is what we were saying earlier for 14 days. So shortly will be 14 days then.
Yeah, exactly. Employees came into work a week beginning 23rd of March 2020. Most of them work on customer sites, but were not allowed to attend sites by then due to potential risk of infection. Dilip.
I think you've got to look at the dates as to when you actually furloughed them. You claim from the date you notified them and they stopped working because they were furloughed. So you'll need to go back to the client and look at the dates they actually stopped work. If they went into work, then they should be paid. They're only furloughed from the date of the agreement, and that's from when you claim them back.
Right. Claire says, do you happen to have a link you can share for the QB payroll? Oh, that's just gone. Tomorrow. I think it might just
the link to the QB webinar tomorrow.
Yeah, you get that through your ICB portal, my ICB. Sobi might well be able to present us in a second with the link to the webinar tomorrow, Sobi.
Yeah, it's posted in the chat.
Yeah, it's just gone over onto the chat.
Has it? Okay, great. We'll have a look at that. I'll skip.
Nicola Payne is saying that she has the spreadsheet with her workings and details for each client just in case. I think you're absolutely right. I think it's the only way to do it. When you're splitting a month like March and April has been, you've got to keep a spreadsheet with very detailed calculations. It's by far the easiest, and you could use the HMRC calculator if you want to, but that's only to work out what you're going to pay them. I think you need to keep your records, and as Nicola's right, that's what Ian said 2 weeks ago, and you just need to keep it to justify it.
This link is a bit difficult, but for those of you who are looking, I mean, it'll be on our website anyway, but it's bookkeepers.org.uk/automation-y-quickbooks-e-12662. So
I think if you copy it, I'm copying it with my mouse, and if you highlight it and do a Control-C and copy and then paste it somewhere while you're waiting, because I think the chat will disappear afterwards. So anyone who wants that, copy it and paste it into a document or something, I would.
It's on the events page of our website. So let's go to bookkeepers.uk/events. You should see it there.
Great. So that was it Claire or somebody said that? So Claire, are you one of our non-ICB members that's plugging into this? In which case, when you see how good we are today and how brilliant our webinars tomorrow, perhaps you ought to think of joining us. But anyway, great. Oh, no, Jane, hello, Jane, sitting in the garden watching this. Well, some people have all the luck, don't they, really?
We've got our north wind again. Can't sit in our garden at the moment.
Nice to hear from you, Jane.
Anonymous attendee, can the Easter bank holidays be claimed for furlough and the employer then top it up to 100% if the bank holidays are normally included in the annual holiday entitlement? I'm wondering if this is my lady from East Anglia that's asked this, because I dealt with this question last week and I've tried to contact her, but I can't. I'm really sorry, but I can't remember who I rang. If you are treating the Easter days as holidays, somebody did raise the issue on Friday that might be breaking the furlough if they come off of furlough and go on holiday, which I hadn't thought about.
So you have to pay them for holidays?
Yeah, but if they're on holiday, they're not furloughed. Therefore, you're breaking the 3-week furlough. And somebody very kindly
we need to finish
that out.
On holiday, don't we? Yeah. Have you answered Holly Rada? According to their calculations, the daily pay limit, if you're paying less than a whole week, isn't anywhere near the weekly rate divided by 5. Can you explain that? Is that because it's divided by 52 and multiplied by 12?
No, I've got a funny feeling for March they're dividing it by 31 days rather than taking the weekly. They're taking the total, divided it by 31, and they're using it on a pro rata basis on a daily rate, and it's not coming out the same, and I don't know why. I was quite surprised when I saw they were averaging over 31 days, because if you average over 31 days, it makes your daily rate different for each month. But some are 31, some are 30, 29, whatever. So.
And Miranda Best, would it be unethical?
Yeah.
Have you seen that, to not claim employment allowance until later in the year? That way you could reclaim the NIC and then claim employment.
The thing is, I'm not sure it's possible not to claim it, because you have to set that at the start of the year. So once you've claimed it, you have to claim the employer's allowance each year now on your payroll, because of this de minimis thing. It's changed. Once you ticked it, it was fine. But when you run your April payroll, it's actually going to calculate 0 NICs anyway, because you're already on the allowance. So yes, I think it's going to be unethical, but I don't think you're going to be able to do it.
Claire says, I'm a fellow. Well done, Claire. We do like our fellows. Well done. And I'm actually booked into the webinar already. So you were just trying to get me to publicise it more widely, weren't you? Thank you, Claire. Really good idea. I hadn't thought of that, but okay. Brilliant. Claire with an I. Must remember that. Okay. Whoa.
The bookkeeping team, we've had this one before. Client working as a sole trader incorporated at the end of March. While there were still some bits going through the sole trader, the plan is to put the trade through the limited company from the 1st of April. Is it right legally and morally? We've talked about this one before, because the previous question came through where the client has insisted that they become a limited company to avoid
IR35.
If it's possible, it would certainly help to continue invoicing from the sole trader, because if you, but then again, you haven't yet declared that you stopped trading. I think this is an ethical one that I don't think we've had the answer to yet.
No, I think we have to be careful with ethical questions here. It is a difficult one, but technically, well, it depends. I mean, is the limited company merely going to take all the clients off the self-employed business? And there are all sorts of lots of other things to think about on this one. As ICB bookkeepers, you do need to be very careful that you are so clever that you don't end up helping them do something which is not quite right. So I would, if you can on that, I would stick exactly to the rules. And unfortunately, they started trading from the 1st. I don't know what else to say, really.
Suzanne's just asked about a particular question. Suzanne, could you send an email into member services and ask it to be forwarded to me, and I'll contact you, please?
Oh.
Faye.
This is, and this is a difficult one, isn't it, really?
Is that Faye's?
Yeah.
Got a problem with the client and employee agreeing on furlough due to one thing's discretionary and one thing's contractual. Can the employer now offer statutory guarantee pay and then redundancy? Actually, that's more of a legal employment contract, right? And I'm not that up on the legal side of it that much, I'm afraid. Gary, don't know about that one.
Yeah, I mean, if it's going to end up in redundancy anyway, the furlough payment is not supposed to be used. That's to retain staff that you have the belief that you need and will be used by you and employed by you once we get out of this, isn't it? If there's a redundancy mentioned, I don't know.
There was something flying around at the end of last week on one of the news letters about the redundancy, is it a minimum of 46 days consultation for redundancy? You can't just make somebody redundant. You have to go through a full consultation.
Yeah.
So I think anyone using redundancy, I think you have to have the statutory reasons for being made redundant. And I have a funny feeling that, I mean, if you're making someone redundant, it means you can't replace their job. So I don't think you can use redundancy in the situation where somebody else is maybe taking your job and is on furlough.
No, exactly. I think you're right on that. Yeah.
There's one here about Sage Payroll and the confirmation to the employment allowance. I think that's one for Julia at Sage, to be honest.
Right. I don't know if Julia's on it. If you are, Julia, then we'll send it off. So can you cut and paste and send it off to her?
Yeah.
Thank you, says the bookkeeping group. Again, that's good. BG operating through his own limited. Contractor with BG operating through his own limited company.
Sorry, I'm just making a note of that for Julia.
BG. This being his main source of income, is not getting any work due to BG, is only providing emergency cover to its customers. Can the owner director furlough himself? BG? Am I being dumb here?
Sorry.
A contractor with BG.
British Gas, operating through his own limited company. This being his main source of income is... Yes, you can furlough yourself. We've agreed that. But if you can't do any income generation work, the director can furlough themselves. We're trying to get a confirmation from HMRC about the definition of the duties of the director and whether you could actually, because you're going to have to run your own payroll.
Yeah, you can do your own payroll. It can't be anything that is income generating. So that includes ringing up your clients and asking them for more business. But what we couldn't quite agree, and nobody has come back to me with an answer yet, is if you're ringing everybody up saying, how are things? Yeah. And having a sort of what I would call a social customer retention chat, whether that is generating revenue because you're trying to stop them disappearing. I don't think that is, but I think that, you know, if you want to go out and do some work and get paid for it and all that sort of thing, that is easy. That's a black and white one, but the other is a little bit grayer. So, Jackie, just looking at everybody coming in today, it would appear that this morning's gone particularly well. Everybody seems to have picked it up very quickly. Yeah. And I was talking to somebody from HMRC a couple of days ago, and they were saying, you know, we're hoping everything is going to go well. And they'd had a lot of quite negative comments from accountants about the amount of work and all the rest of it. And I said, well, we always get those, whatever happens, you know, whether it's RTI or it's, you know, well, anything that happens really. But I think bookkeepers are very practical. They sort of get on with it. It's what they do. They're used to filling in boxes and ticking and pressing a button and clearing it all off and being happy with what they've done. So I think we have proved yet again that it's great. It'd be interesting to see whether it's a universal thumbs up for this or not. But,
we'll wait and see what happens later in the day and what's going to happen. I have to say, though, I think the mere fact that the first 67,000 on there in the first hour or half an hour this morning is proof of how hard is proof of how hard the HMRC team, IT team in the back rooms have been working, considering that a lot of them are doing this from a distance. I think it's gone a lot smoother than I thought it might have done, put it that way.
Yes, the idea that the thing was going to close down at about 9:30, thankfully, it hasn't come to fruition. Although obviously 70,000-80,000 is the edge of the problem, really. I mean, they've got millions to go through there. So, but let's hope this is and of course, at the moment, it's a bit of an open-ended problem for the government because they don't know how many companies are actually furloughing employees fully. They don't know how much they're going to get a claim for. And I know it's a bit of a political hot potato, that one, but I understand that Mr. Johnson will be up and running again soon, so he'll be taking the helm again, I think, which might be useful. It's interesting, on the daily briefings, I've noticed that people are being a little bit firmer now with the constant press questions and barracking that they're getting. They're being a little bit tougher in their stance. And even the lovely lady from the medical lady yesterday, she was standing her ground a bit, you know, saying, come on, we're working hard here, you know, we're bringing in millions of things for, what is it, 80,000 extra places that all this stuff has to be delivered to. So, yeah, it's interesting. I think they're gonna come out reasonably well out of this. Hopefully, they're not going to get too many detracting voices.
There is one. Did you see on the chat, Gary? There's one from Jane, or lovely and sunny in Scotland today. From an advisory point of view, how can bookkeepers better advise and support their clients?
Well, I wrote something in the last newsletter, my article in the newsletter. It was all about just communicate, really. I mean, when I was younger, I remember estate agents always saying location, location, location. And I said, well, ours is communication, 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 because that's the one big advantage that bookkeepers have, is that they do communicate with their clients. So when times get tough, you communicate more, not less. You know, yeah, you might say, well, they probably want to be left alone to get on with life. Well, no, they don't. They want their hand holding. They want us to be there. And I think that if you give them the figures, you sit down with them and you tell them where the lumps and bumps are coming, because there are going to be a lot of them. The 80% is obviously not what everybody was earning, but at least they can get some of that back. If they're self-employed, they can get certain amounts of grant. Jane's from up in Scotland, so the Scots are doing quite well up there. I heard today some more money is coming out of Scotland. They seem to be pretty quick at getting their money out and their grants out. I don't think any of us has the crystal ball, or otherwise, you know, we'd all be trying to sell it to government as we speak. But we do our job, basically. We do what we're paid to do and what we are damn good at, to be honest. We're not just bookkeepers, we are ICB bookkeepers. And I think we have to be positive. We have to be friendly. And, you know, like the nurses, as I also said in my article, you know, we have a certain bedside manner as bookkeepers, and we stick to that. And I think if they understand that you are keeping up to date through this and through other avenues, through other webinars, through other websites, etc., and you're part of ICB and you know what you're talking about, that will give them a lot of confidence. And that's very important. It's the confidence. It's the feeling of, yeah, it's okay. I'm not the only one on this. I can get through this. I mean, Jacquie, you've worked in commerce and industry for a long time, and I know you've had some pretty scary bosses on occasion. But basically, oil on the water is the call of the day. I think, you know, it's there because losing your temper or losing your head about something isn't actually going to make it any better. If it'll make it worse. So
and it ruins the relationship as well. On. Yeah, it ruins the relationship. So you have to keep yourself very calm and smile sweetly and think the customer is correct, even if you know they're not always, and just try and persuade them. And there are some that you'll never persuade, but
yeah. And I think also it's at times like this, I think it's also good to remember that you are part of a professional institute. You are a professional. And although most people don't ever mention to their clients who they're with, which institute body they're with, I think it's worth, you know, occasionally just dropping into the conversation. I'm being kept up to date by my institute. I'm a member of an institute. You know, it just adds to your kudos. You know, it adds to the fact that you're not just somebody who knows how to spell bookkeeper. You are a bookkeeper. You know, you're a proper bookkeeper. You've learned and you've done things properly. And Jane, I remember, you know, you talking to me when we've been up in Scotland and Inspire Tour before about some of the things that you've done to get the work finished for your clients. It's exactly why the clients are with you. You know, it's not unique to bookkeepers, but I think, you know, we've got a certain edge there. We've got a unique selling point that we need to build up on. And don't forget, in another 2 or 3 months, hopefully we'll be out of lockdown. It doesn't mean that the world's going to get back to normal immediately. It's going to be a very strange place. People are going to be looking for more business, new business. There will be people who've struggled and they've got to start paying money back to the bank and whoever. You're going to be needed more than ever. And again, provided you're there by them, shoulder to shoulder as they go forward, I think this is going to be a huge opportunity for bookkeepers. So keep it up.
Well, I was going to say, Gary, Philip has just written in saying she's picked up a new client today. So that's good news. So well done. That's great, Philip.
Well, quite a lot of people I've spoken to are picking up new clients because a lot of people who thought they could do it themselves, and now actually, I'm not trained to do this. This is worrying me. I need some help. So the more people that learn that lesson whilst this is happening and then decide, they know where to go for something, I think it would be better for them and us.
Couple here, anonymous, can I submit the RTI and then claim a couple of hours later? I'll need to wait for my client to claim as the agent code's not come through yet. Yes, you can do that. That's not a problem. And Dilip, owner director, this is another question in whether the owner director can furlough themselves and then go and look for other work. No, you can't, because that's income generation.
Just give away to Lisa. Lisa.
Hi, Lisa.
Thank you very much. But it's been very helpful, but I've got to go. So Lisa, good. And,
and Faye's picking up payroll work, so that's good.
Oh yeah,
I'm not surprised.
Yeah, there's a lot of confidence to leaving it to somebody who knows what they're doing, and keep us in touch, Faye. In 3 months' time, have you still got them? Have you managed to show the clients that you're the best person for the job and you've hung on to them? Let's hope that's the case. Right. I think, Jackie, wait a minute. I think probably from Carol. Now, the way that's spelt, that's got to be Carol from Devon. Hello, Carol. One of my clients tells people I know that I'm talking about because I'm an ICB bookkeeper. A bit more, I think, to get her to add bookkeeper. Oh, so she tells everybody she's an ICB. Well, Carol, the fact that she tells everybody about you means that you're doing a good job, and we're very pleased about that. I can fully understand that. An ICB bookkeeper. Okay, that's brilliant. And when you get there, we'll settle for ICB for the moment.
And last one, I think, from the Facebook, from Mandy Merritt. If you take an ex-employee back on furlough them because they left and their new plan fell through, how do you deal with them at the end of the furlough scheme? I think you probably just P45 them at the end. I think because they will have left. Yeah. I think nearer the end of the time, these are the sort of questions that are going to start to crop up. Okay, I think
right.
Go through all of these questions. I'll have a look at them all to pick up any that we've missed this afternoon, and we'll get answers out. I'm going to send one to Julia about the stage payroll. There has been some more notes coming in about, yes, HMRC have to send you a letter before you can claim it. So we'll try and get some answers on that for you in a day or so. And I'm still chasing up HMRC with my queries. Sorry, it does take an awful long time to get some of these through, particularly from HMRC. Okay.
Yeah, okay. Well, I think we're about done there for the day. Thank you very much for that, Jackie. Sobi, if you can just put up a picture of that panel again so that everybody remembers to look out tonight, BBC Two, and that's at 8:30, I believe, but just check your times wherever you are and see if Imperial College with Chris Brooks' son there, Richard Brooks on the left-hand side, can beat Corpus Christi to walk away with the University Challenge Trophy for 2020. We wish them well, and obviously, before anybody writes in and complains, if you've got somebody who's sitting on the Corpus Christi Cambridge team, then I'm sorry, I didn't know about that, but we wish everybody well that's related to anybody we've got. Tomorrow we've got another open session coming in. We're not sure who's coming yet. We were going to have somebody here from the HMRC because we just in case there were going to be any problems, but they've just rung in to say that actually they can't make it tomorrow. Things are going really, really well, and they're not being allowed out of school for the time being. So anyway, we're doing that. On Wednesday, we've got Caroline Plum, who's coming in from Fluidly. And then on Thursday, we've got Tax Filer. So all good stuff. Fluidly, obviously, talking about cash flows, and Tax Filer talking to us about things that we've been chatting about today. tax and various other things there. So that should be both 2 really good days. And so everybody, enjoy the sun if you can. I'm hoping that you're not completely furlough crazy yet or lockdown crazy. We are here. Don't forget our telephone number is still open. That's 0203 405 4000. It's the usual office number. We're not in the office. We are all working from our respective homes, but we are joined by the auto telephone service. So if you want to speak to somebody, we can transfer you. If you want technical advice, legal advice, MLR advice, we can still put you through. All of our exams are still running. So you can take an exam any time of the day, night that you want to. We can sort that out for you and everything else. And our emails, I'm pleased to say we are way up to date now with our emails, even though you're sending far more emails in than you are even sending questions. And, you know, we are firing away somewhere in the region of 30 to 40 an hour at the moment. So that's great. And if you need something else, if you'd like to see something else coming on this program, please let us know. We are very touchy-feely here. We like to know what it is you want, and rather than feed you something that only we want to give you. So let me know anything that's coming up. And this week we also have a virtual advisory council meeting. So anybody that's got anything you'd like me to put to the advisory council, or one of my team to put to advisory council, please let me know. Otherwise, we will see you tomorrow. Thank you, Jackie, again for coming in with all the
nice to speak to you.
I think we're down to the last couple of things we're missing, particularly holidays. But apart from that, we hope to sort that out very soon. And so, thank you very much. Thank you to Sobi for being the anchor for today. And we will be in touch. See you all soon.
Thank you. Bye all.